What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Nest Podcast. This is episode 79, and it is the Rosie Brown episode about Sportszilla. Yeah, that's a name that you don't hear that often. A 1950s NFL Hall of Famer. Wow. My name is Brandon, and joining me is my co-host for the evening, Justin. What's up, my man, and welcome back.
What's going on, brother? I'm happy to be back. Excited. It's been busy, man.
Yeah, you've been a very busy man the past, week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it's been. I know you're dealing with a lot of things with the gym. Can you give us an update on what's going on there?
Yeah, we're just trying to keep things as normal as possible for the kids. We got a bunch of fights coming up this month, end of this month, going into next month, including the Golden Gloves tournament. Like I said, as far as Roy goes, unfortunately, I guess no news is good news. It's the same situation. It's not gotten worse. And really, I mean, if we're going to take a win, I'll take that. But I'd like to hear more, but that's all we're hearing right now. So we're just trying to keep these kids motivated and keeping them going.
So just to confirm, Roy is still in the coma.
Yes, he is still in the coma.
For listeners that's not aware, Roy King Jr., professional boxer, trains at a gym that Justin is president of, and he slipped into a coma about 3 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's been at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, after a fight in Nashville, Tennessee. So he's got all kinds of GoFundMe campaigns and stuff like that set up. So Roy King Jr., you can find him on Facebook or whatever. Look him up if you can. Help that cause because they need it. Zach obviously isn't here with us tonight. He got called into work and had to go save lives there in the city of St. Louis. So he's doing what he does. And it's just going to be us. But Zach and I had the privilege of having a professional baseball player come on and talk for about 20 or 30 minutes with us earlier this week. And the people that listen to us on the podcast get to hear that entire interview on this episode. And that's quite a bit of fun because a dude named Tanner Rahir, and he was a second-round draft pick for the Cincinnati Reds. And he had a lot of cool stories that he told us and told us about a product that he invented that is helping guys possibly fix Tommy John surgery or prevent Tommy John surgery from needing to happen on these guys. So awesome interview. Definitely check out the podcast episode so that you can hear that. But Justin, in MLB news, we've got a lot to talk about. And, you see, I've already changed the flag behind me. It's baseball season now. Football's over. Mm-hmm. We're moving on into spring training. Baseball season is here. And I could not be more excited. And I'm happy that some of the pieces are finally falling into place in Boston. Have you caught any of the news coming out of New England this past week?
I haven't caught that. Like I said, I saw the blockbuster trade, the 3-team trade with Price and Mookie. I think y'all talked about it on Thursday. Like I said, I was so into the XFL this weekend that, and I know we're going to have a whole segment on that, so I'm going to share that part of it, but that was my focus this weekend.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, so Zach and I did do an episode last week, or just earlier last week, Thursday or Wednesday or whatever it was, talking about the mega blockbuster trade and the implications around the league. Well, since then, that trade fell apart. That trade did not happen.
Really?
Another trade did happen. That Jeremy Hodge said traded Betts twice because that's what happened. They did trade Betts twice in the span of a week. And holy shit, he's still in LA. Price is still in LA. Alex Verdugo still went to Boston, but there were some different pieces that fell into place. Most notably for Boston, a kid named Jeter Downs, who is instantly moved up to the number one prospect in the Red Sox organization. He's there. Shortstop, probably going to transition over to play second base. He'll probably spend the majority of the season down at the minor league level, but that's in my opinion, the heir apparent for Dustin Pedroia. He's going to come up and replace that second base gap that I've been harping about since 2017.
Yeah. So the Red Sox went young with it.
Yep, they sold on Mookie Betts with his one final season on his contract before he hits free agency and gets a massive payload. And they sold on David Price, who is an aging pitcher that had a massive contract. So they dumped a lot of money, basically.
So they were trying to get underneath that luxury tax.
Yeah, absolutely. They're trying to get below the threshold so that they don't get penalized for draft picks. And those draft picks that they're going to get to keep is basically like a player to be named later in this trade, because that's what they also gain by cutting Mookie's salary and cutting Price's salary, is they get those extra young studs that can possibly come up and help the farm system and help the team 2-3 years down the road.
And after the season they had last year, I think that's actually a really good move. They had these guys on the team and they didn't have the best of seasons. I know you're used to winning every year, whether it be the Patriots or the Red Sox, you're used to always having that chance to win it all. So I think that's a smart move by the Red Sox to go young and to try to rebuild at this time.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% because you cashed in on Mookie Betts and were able to get a bunch of young studs. Jeremy's commenting along and he said, I wonder who he's named after, referring to Jeter Downs. Obviously, he's named after Derek Jeter, who played for the Yankees and was a huge rival to the Red Sox his entire career. So it's kind of nice that the Red Sox have their own Jeter for a change.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Jeremy on here whenever y'all do the talk about the Yankees. I mean, he's the most knowledgeable guy I know when it comes to the Yankees. He reminds me of you, but for them.
Well, it having a Jeter is just like when we had a DiMaggio. We had Dom DiMaggio back when they had Joe DiMaggio. So we've had similar names throughout the history on in the rivalry, but it's definitely fun to be able to call Jeter Downs Mr. 100%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to start calling him just to piss off all the Yankee fans that listen. Mr. 100%. The Red Sox have Mr. 100 in their Jeter. Not that 99.9 bullshit. Anyway, so more news came out about the Astros, and this is actually serious. It looks like it was more of a scheme that was developed long before Alex Cora even arrived on the scene, but it happened in 2016 when the front office brass directed seemingly like a secret task force of cyber geeks to hack and figure out how to steal these signs. They called it Code Breaker, and even in emails and stuff, they like sketchily called it the dark arts and stuff like that, because they developed an Excel based algorithm that could map what the catchers were putting down with their finger sequence, and then they would know what the pitches were that were coming. Like, this was a very high tech thing. And I started thinking about this shit, and it's like, we put on this podcast. We put on this little show every week that has the little graphics and it has all the little fun, flashy shit going on for the live stream viewers. But these guys are coming up with technology in a whole new way. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are using technology that our generation is capable of using for stuff like this, and they're turning it into a way to cheat in baseball. Mm-hmm. It makes me worried about the robo umps. Are they going to be able to hack into that kind of shit?
That's actually a really good question. This, I'm saying this as a joke, but I am going to school for information technology. Maybe that'll be my first big gig. Hey, if they'll pay me $1 million, I'll do anything. But yeah, I wonder if that might put a stop to these umpires. But with that being said, umpires can get paid off just as quick as anybody.
That's true.
So, I mean, it kind of makes you question if it'll ever be fair. Like if there's a way to, they made that movie about the basketball umpire that's coming out in theater soon. The one that took the millions and millions of dollars and all throughout the '90s, basically through all the playoff games and all this stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
Um,
what can
God,
we
I can't.
do?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head though.
I watched his interview. Logan Paul actually did an interview with him. It's actually really interesting. But like, what can we do at this point to assure that nothing's happening? Because something else could be happening right now. We just haven't caught it yet. We're too busy looking at the buzzer and that part of it that we haven't seen the other thing that's going on. So I think the best plan of action is to figure out, maybe get a task force to look out for these type of things ahead of time, and maybe have to put some money in some nerds' pockets that way.
I mean, that's definitely the way of the future. And, nerds are taking over. Like I said, Zach and I started figuring out this little process. And, we had help, asking our fellow nerd friends, like our buddies over at Locker Room Talk. They helped out immensely with the live stream and figuring that shit out. So, and Ian at Growing Up 8-Bit, he's another nerd that helped us figure out, all of this stuff. So, nerds are taking over the world one way or another, and it seems like that's just opening up more jobs to either be a cyber hacker for sports or to be a cyber hacker stopper, hacker
Preventer, yeah.
blocker. You
And
know?
Matt, he agrees with me. He's going to school for the same thing. He'll take that money and run.
Oh, absolutely.
We ain't done. We call me a nerd all you want. I'll beat you
Yeah,
up, and
no,
then
I,
afterwards
I,
I'll
I
hack your
embrace it.
stuff.
I mean, we host a podcast
Hmm.
that says nerd entertainment across the top of our logo. We fully embrace that we're nerds around here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's what's going to have to happen. If you're going to have nerds on the wrong side, you've got to have nerds on the good side.
That's it. It's like the, going nerdy. It's just like the force.
Yeah.
You got to have a light side and a dark side. But before we go down that rabbit hole, let's keep it on sports and actually maintain some kind of credibility for the bottom half of our logo that says sports talk.
Hmm.
So the Twins were originally part of that deal that Zach and I talked about last Wednesday. They were to receive Maeda, and then they were sending Gratterall to Boston. Well, that didn't happen either. They still ended up with Maeda, but Gratterall went to the Dodgers, and there was a little bit more added here and there. And yeah, a prospect, an outfield prospect, went with Gratterall. So the Twins had to give up a little bit more to get Maeda, but they still ended up with their man. So that's good for them. A good solid arm in the Twins organization. That should bode well for them in the American League Central. But the Dodgers decided, well, not really the Dodgers, but the Angels and the Dodgers trade with Jock Peterson involved. That was the big shocker because it fell apart completely.
Hmm.
So because this delay and the Mookie being traded twice and all that stuff happened, it caused Jock Peterson to end up staying in LA, which leaves a very crowded outfield in LA. That's another outfielder that they've got. By the way, they also have Bellinger and Mookie Betts. I don't think the Dodgers are done moving pieces. I think Peterson's going somewhere else.
Yeah. But I don't. That's the thing about baseball. Like, no other sport can you have multi-team trades where like there's 4 or 5 teams trading, and if one little piece goes wrong inside of that mix, it throws everything off. I don't. I've actually looked up on Google and stuff trying to figure out how they do the multi-team trades, because I know it's happened in the NBA a couple times, but you never see it in football.
No, you really don't. It's always straight up in football.
Yeah, and I mean, that just seems like that would be the better way. But I don't know, man. It's just crazy. Like baseball's like a whole new sport inside of the sport. You have to know so much just to enjoy watching baseball.
Yeah. And that's kind of like that meme that's floating around that's like, it's okay if you think baseball is boring. It's kind of a smart person sport.
It's true, yeah.
You have to understand a lot of the moving pieces that aren't really moving. It's numbers and stats and figures that are moving in real time. The people are just throwing a ball around.
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep up with batting averages, pitcher stats. I mean, there's just so much
Well,
air
and even
percentage, ERA.
even when the game's going, you've got to keep up with strike counts, the
Yeah.
score, what inning it is, what number you are in the batting lineup, you know, how many outs you have.
How many times have you seen an outfielder, somebody catch a ball on 2 outs and just throw it down because they can't even keep up with it themselves.
I mean, it happens every now and then. Like a, a guy will catch a pop fly or a deep fly, and he'll catch it. It'll be the second out, and then he'll just turn and toss the ball into the crowd or whatever. And then
Yeah.
the other team gets a free base because the ball goes out of bounds.
Yeah, I
So
know. That's
now, if you were on second base, you're now 90 feet away at third base. That's a pretty big blunder.
yeah, I'm gonna catch y'all though, don't you worry.
Yeah, Jeremy again commenting saying Gratterall is filthy. Man, 100-mile-an-hour sinker.
Yeah,
That
that's sick.
shit is crazy. And that makes me question with that whole deal. Him going to Boston, everybody in the media and everybody was saying like, "Oh, he's a bust. He's a flop. He's not going to do well, blah blah blah." But as soon as they go to LA, the media is talking about how he's such a good fit and how he's going to be such a huge asset and stuff like that. It's like, how can he be so bad for one team but so good for another, other than the fact that you guys are just trying to stir controversy?
It's the team you pull for. The Red Sox and the Yankees are just similar to the Cowboys. You know, that's your team, and everybody either love them to death or everybody else hates them. There's no in between.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm just talking about like even the mainstream like sports media is they've chastised the Red Sox for this trade, for trading Mookie Betts away. They they're they've basically just sold them up the river, saying that this was the worst mistake that they could have made. Because Mookie Betts is a franchise player, and that's a guy that you typically don't want off of your team or off of your lineup. But the price was getting too steep in this day and age in baseball, and we got a lot back. Well, I say we, but the Red Sox got a lot back in return for a lot less. The
Yeah.
productivity that you're going to get from Alex Verdugo and Jeter Downs over the next 4, 5 years is going to be more than what Mookie Betts is going to do in 1 year.
Yeah, I agree. And if they were trending like if they were close to winning the World Series last year and they were trending that way, I could see paying and keeping Mookie on the team to
Mm-hmm.
try to go for the World Series. But based on what they did the previous year, I think they made the right move. I don't understand how they could chastise what they did because, like I said, they wasn't contending last year.
Right. They didn't even make the playoffs. They were
Yeah.
a few games back from the wild card even. So it was a pretty pathetic year. So you're right. It made sense for them to go ahead and pull the trigger and make this a rebuild.
It's kind of what the Braves did with their young talent, you know, and they ended up getting a steal paying what was it, $100 million for 10 years?
I don't even remember the numbers. I think he got closer to 200 million, but over 8 years.
But based
But
on what they got, that was dirt cheap.
yeah, the Red Sox did just extend Andrew Benintendi for another 2 years, 5 million per year, so a 2-year, $10 million contract, which is
That ain't
pretty
bad.
cheap for a,
Yeah.
a good outfielder of Andrew's caliber. He could end up being, a perennial all-star type outfielder, Gold Glove type outfielder. So it's going to be cool to see him really step up this next year. And Xander's going to be the man this year. This is his team now.
Hmm.
This is Xander Bogart's team, and he's going to step up and be the leader.
It seems he's been in the waiting for a while. Like he's been sitting back there waiting for his time to shine for a long time.
Oh, he has. He's been snubbed for a little bit. And Jeremy, I agree 100%, man. Boston paid Price and Eovaldi way too much. They acted on pure emotion, paying Eovaldi whenever they paid him, because it was right after the World Series when he was so brilliant for what 6.5 innings in the postseason, and then they just gave him that huge contract, and then his elbow shit the bed. His elbow shit the bed when he pitched in New York. It shit the bed when he pitched in Tampa. So why should we be surprised that it shit the bed when he's in Boston? But it is what it is. And another thing that added to the whole Mookie needing to be traded is JD opted into his contract. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. When JD opted in, that meant Mookie had to go.
Yeah, I wonder if they were kind of wanting him not to do that.
I don't know. That's being stuck between a rock and a hard place because JD is a premier slugger in the league right now. And I mean, in 2018, when Mookie won the MVP, JD finished like third or fourth in MVP voting. So
Right.
you had two MVPs playing on the same team, basically. And that's what you're going to have in LA with Mookie and Bellinger.
And Trout.
Trout plays in with the Angels, not the Dodgers.
Oh, I don't know why every time I think of LA, I think of I just forget about the Dodgers. It's like they don't even exist. And I'm sorry, any Dodgers fans out there, but anytime I hear LA, for some reason, I think the Angels.
Which is odd because the Dodgers are the much more well-known team, the much more recognizable team. It's like
Yeah.
Yankees and Mets. When you think of New York, you think Yankees, not Mets.
For somebody that don't follow baseball like you guys, I see more of the Trout on TV, and I see more of those big name players. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Does
I
that make
guess. See,
sense?
I don't think I see enough Trout. I
But
don't
when I,
I don't think I see enough of a lot of the big name players because it's not like football. It's not like basketball where ESPN shoves it down our throats.
yeah, I just saw the contract. That was enough for me.
And
Jeez.
that's the thing is most people see a contract and they roll their eyes and think, God, how can somebody get paid that much? But on that interview, you'll hear a day in the life of spring training with Tanner right here. So he tells you the work that these guys put in and day out, and it's pretty intense and pretty grueling.
Oh yeah, they play what, like 100 plus games a year?
162 regular season games, not
I
to
mean,
mention spring training for a month, and then if you make the postseason, that's another month.
yeah, and then you get like a month off, and then you start back over. I mean, these
Well,
guys are really, they're not, well, you know what I mean.
you
It's
get
not
like
like
4 or 5
football.
months, yeah.
Well, football has like, what, 7 months? I'm 6 or 7 months off, not counting the draft and all that stuff. You
Yeah,
got that
from the time
huge
that
gap.
then they start their mini camps and their summer training camps and all that stuff. Yeah.
And it just seems like baseball don't have that gap. Like, I feel like when baseball ends, like, it's shortly getting ready to start back up. I
Yeah,
know it don't
but
feel that way to you, but it does to me.
I get your point. I feel like the off season football training is a lot longer than the off season baseball training.
Yeah, and it's
Because
not
spring,
looked at like baseball either off season as far as that goes.
sure, but generally speaking, from the end of October to the middle of February, baseball players are off.
Hmm.
And then they do their little light workouts in their hometowns and wherever they're from, whatever training camp they want to go to, they choose. But then once they report back in February, they're only there from then until the season starts, and that's all the scheduled off season that they have, off season training or whatever, preseason training. The NFL starts training camps in like April,
Yeah, no, and you don't
like
really
mini
hear
camps
much
and stuff.
about it.
No, they're quiet. They're real quiet, but they start getting together and doing their camps and their practices and all that stuff. And then they're having full practices and pads come like May, June, and then they start the preseason schedule when they're playing games. And that's
Hmm.
what's televised and so widely talked about. But they have a really long training in the off season and then only 17 games. So that's why you feel like football is so much shorter because you only see it for such a short time.
Yeah,
But the XFL makes it possible for you to see football longer.
man, XFL week one, I was like going into it kind of scared because the original XFL was so cheap. And man, I was shocked, dude. I was actually entertained. There was some good football going on,
There
and
was,
the new rules actually, I like the kickoff rule. I really like those rules. I mean, it worked out great.
yeah, the new kickoff rule for listeners that didn't watch any of the XFL action, it was pretty dope. They lined up on the 35 and the 30, and the
Hmm.
kicker kicked the ball, the returner caught the ball, and that's when the guys could start moving. As soon as he caught the ball, the two lines would collide, and from there, they could make plays and stuff. I thought for sure when I heard this rule that there was going to be like 6 touchdowns a game from this type of play,
Me
but I didn't
too.
see any.
Yeah, I did too. I thought that they was going to have some kick returners just taking it to the house every time, but I mean, very minimal gains when it come to kicking based on what I thought was going to happen. It worked out, and like you said, it was funny how they were trying to eliminate kickers and punters, and really some of the best action came from kickers and punters.
Yep. The first points in the new XFL history,
Hmm.
field goal.
And
The-
Marcus King, the one that played for the Raiders, the black punter, dude, he was pinning it on the 1, 2, 3. I mean, that he was like I was watching him. I just wanted to see him keep punting. So he'll be back in the league very soon. He
oh yeah.
literally kicked the football. His team screwed it up because they thought the guy touched it and the guy dove on it and took it in the end zone. But dude, he hit a kick, and I swear to you, if it didn't, it hit like the 2 and stopped on the 1. I ain't never seen nothing like it in my life.
He just
And
had the backspin or some shit. I don't know.
it was exciting, dude. And then the quarterbacks, dude, the quarterbacks were balling. Cardell Jones was for the DC Defenders. He played his tail off. But PJ Walker, man, golly,
For the Roughnecks.
if he didn't have one of the best quarterback games I've seen in years, and that's including NFL, dude, he was throwing dimes, dude.
It's funny. We talked about it before the season, and you and me and Zach, we all agreed that we were going to cheer for the Battlehawks. We
Hmm.
were like, yeah, that'll be our team. Why not? We don't know shit about any of them, but that's who we'll cheer for. I think you and I are kind of having buyer's remorse.
Yeah, after I think we still got time to change. It's only been 1 week. I mean, you can't
That and
really.
they're an undefeated team. The Battlehawks did win, and we're the only team to win on the road.
Yeah, but after watching the DC Defenders, man, I got a little man crush on them.
And see, I
Um,
kind of feel that way about the Roughnecks, man. Like I I tweeted out during the game, I said the Roughnecks are the best football team in the city of Houston.
oh yeah,
It
definitely.
got a few little retweets and likes and stuff like that, and I thought it was funny because I took a real good jab at the Texans because they always drop the ball.
Oh yeah, I think it'd make it more interesting if we all had our own team.
Yeah, that's true too. I might roll with Houston. I might jump on the bandwagon there after I've seen them for a week. I do like that offense.
I'd be a DC Defender. Now, like I said, PJ Walker, man, he just seems so much faster than everybody on the field. Like when he would break, like get out of the pocket, dude, he was just balling. I was shocked. Like I hadn't seen PJ Walker play since he played for, was it Temple he played for?
I don't know, man.
Temple or West Virginia?
I
I
can't
don't one
remember.
of those teams, but I was just absolutely crazy, dude.
Yeah, and
Absolutely
and the
crazy.
XFL really shocked me with a lot of the cool new technology. Again, bringing that up, they had everything that I've wanted in the NFL for so long. I love that you can hear the referees talking. Whenever a play happened that there was a question about or whatever, you could hear the referees talking about it, trying to figure out what they saw. You could hear the guys up in the booth talking to them, telling them, hey, this is what's going on here. Guy did this, number 42 did this, blah blah blah. It seemed like they got the play calls right for the most part. They were fast with the reviews. It didn't take 3 commercial breaks to figure out if a guy jumped off sides or not, and it was great.
Yeah,
You could hear the coach talking to the quarterback.
yeah, that was
Like
cool.
I
Me too.
as a kid watching this game, hearing the coach talk to the quarterback, you can kind of put yourself in that position and project yourself to what you would do hearing that advice from the coach. And then like when you're actually playing, it might help you. It might be a tool for kids to get better. And that was just a byproduct of a cool piece of technology they threw in.
Not just players, but how many kids that want to coach or kids that are
Yeah.
in college wanting to coach? They're hearing this this gameplay live.
Right.
They're hearing what the coaches see and what they're calling, so they can sit there. And if I was wanting to be a coach, I'd be sitting there with a notebook and forget the game. I'd be just taking notes because you're basically getting a live look at every game. But my favorite part of it, and this is terrible, like if a kicker missed a field goal or somebody fumbled or somebody threw a pick, dude, the reporter was in their face instantly. So
They,
like they missed the field goal and the reporter's like, "Hey, you missed that field goal. What happened?" Like that is, I mean, that's like
savage.
hardcore, but yeah, but that was awesome to me.
And I loved it. Like almost all of them were huffing and puffing and like, oh, I don't know. Oh. You can
I
tell that
just
they're not in the best shape. They had a very short preseason. We talked about how long the NFL preseason is. They had a pretty short one. It was only like 2 months or something like that before they had to get out there and start playing.
well, some of these guys were working construction, working selling cars,
Yeah,
normal
exactly.
job. I
Like
mean, that's
I,
crazy.
I couldn't get in professional football shape or anything like that in 2 months, a month and a half, whatever they had. That's
No.
insane to think about. But these guys are out there and they're doing a hell of a job. It reminded me of watching like good college football
Mm-hmm.
in a sense.
It did.
It was a
And
lot faster than NFL, just like the college game's a lot faster. You saw a bunch of big hits.
mm-hmm. And I have a feeling there's gonna be a lot of these people on the NFL roster next after their contract's up.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah, I think so
expected
too.
decent ball, but I mean I saw some great ball. Like I said, Cardell Jones and PJ, dude, they both played lights out. For them to not run a team as a quarterback for so long, they both ran that team as if they just came out of college. Like it was absolutely mind blowing. I expected to see the first few weeks. I kept expected to see interceptions, fumbles, a lot of the little mistakes, but we didn't see that.
Right. I expected a lot of like shitty play, like a shit show kind of, real
Yeah,
sloppy. But Matt Carey commented and said 40 days is what they had to get ready for the season. So that's pretty awesome that they were ready that quickly and put on that good of a show.
yeah, and the fact that I was reading that the XFL is expecting to lose a few $1 million over the first 2 years. So what was the football league? It only lasted like 4 weeks.
The AAF.
Yeah, the AAF, they wasn't expecting it. They couldn't pay their players. Okay, they
Yeah.
went in with the amount of money where they can back this league and give it time to develop. And I think that's going to be what ultimately keeps. I could see this new XFL being around for years to come.
Yeah, I do too. I think they've built a solid foundation. They took their time to make smart decisions with TV deals and network like they're hooked up. And Vince is smart. Vince McMahon is smart. He's been dealing with TV and stuff like that for years with the WWE.
Mhm.
This is just another branch of his empire and he learned from his mistakes last time
Mhm.
and they've got a good one now.
Yeah, that's his biggest thing. He got to make a mistake and he got to make up for it.
Yep,
A
because he
lot
was
of
still
people
a
don't get.
millionaire.
Yeah, a lot of people don't get that opportunity. Like the guy that ran the AAF, and I'm sorry, I don't know who it is, but they'll never have a chance to do that again.
It's Charlie Ebersol, Dick
He's
Ebersol's son.
he's done. He messed
Yeah.
up. Especially if the XFL's here, he's done. Vince
Yep.
McMahon just took it back over.
Yep. He won the after NFL season wars. He won the WCW WWF Monday Night Wars, and he won this one too. He won the football wars.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go heads up against Vince McMahon if you're a
No.
business mogul.
And I guess one of the biggest things I like is they actually put real names on their jerseys.
Oh,
I'm
you didn't
so
like the he hate me and all that stuff?
dude, I hated that because you know who he hate me was awesome. He was incredible back when he played.
But nobody knows his name.
Who the hell is he? Exactly. If he was walking down the street, who the hell is he? I don't have no clue what his name is.
Yep, I
Uh,
agree.
How can you root for somebody like somebody named Pac or not Pac Man because you've got Pac Man Jones, but it's like, hey, that's Beetlejuice. You know what I mean? Like, how can you root for somebody if you don't even know who they really are? I
That's
just,
true.
I know,
I
I
mean,
hated that.
sports stars that we actually know their names are shady enough. So if we don't know their names, it's a little bit shadier. You're right about that.
Oh yeah.
And it was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll be tuning in next week. And I hope our listeners that are commenting and talking about the XFL, I hope they keep watching too, because as long as people keep watching, and as long as they keep putting out a good product, we'll keep watching. Then this is going to stick around, and you'll have football for another 10, 12 weeks after the NFL. So that's pretty awesome to have football almost year round.
Oh, heck yeah. And I can't wait to hear what Zach's saying as he listens to this episode here tonight when he hears that we're going to leave the Battle Hawks.
Oh, he's going to be brokenhearted on a lot of things.
Yeah.
He's going to be so butthurt about
Oh,
that, I'm sure. Oh well, he's a big boy. He'll get over it.
sorry, Zach.
Anyway, also this weekend we also watched UFC 247.
Hmm.
Pretty big deal, pretty big card. John Jones, of course, fought in the main event against Dominic Reyes, and there was controversy.
Yeah.
Uh, Reyes going in said that he was the top boxer in the UFC, and he did a hell of a job.
Yeah, he used that jab well. He kept John Jones out of the pocket. Jones really couldn't answer back with much power because Reyes knew how to keep him on the outside.
Uh,
Um, I watched that fight twice because being able to judge a fight and knowing what you're looking for. When I first watch it, when you first see a fight live, you kind of go off emotions.
mhm.
I had John Jones winning this fight from the get go. So when I watched it the first time, I was kind of like, I kind of thought it was close, but I was like, yeah, John Jones won it, right? Because he won the money rounds the last two rounds. But when I watched it through the second time, not really being a fan of one particular fighter and watching it as if I'm scoring the fight, I felt like Reyes won those first three rounds. And even though Jones came back strong in those last two rounds, I personally, like many others, had Reyes winning that fight.
At what point was it, the third or fourth round, did John Jones start with the takedowns?
I think it was at the very end of the third round,
Okay.
going into the fourth round, but he was already behind. So, like I
Okay.
said, they
That's
called
what
the
I
last
thought.
two rounds the money round.
Right.
A
No,
lot
I
of,
get that. I get that. I was asking because that's where my decision really hung, is because I agree Jones won rounds 4 and 5 because he took him down at will,
mhm,
and even though Reyes was able to keep getting up, those takedowns were adding points on the scorecard.
mhm.
Um, I felt Reyes won rounds 1 and 2. So round 3 to me was really my determining factor.
I felt
Um,
it could be a draw, which would have probably been the smartest decision.
and that's kind of what I feel too. But then I think about it, in a championship fight, a draw goes to the champion.
That's probably what they did.
And that's how it turned up, in my opinion. And so by that count, that last minute takedown in round 3 is what saved Jones's championship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I would probably give them both one more fight, kind of like a warm up fight, and I'd run it back. It's too close. When you get a fight like that, everybody wants to see it again. You know, a lot of people think Reyes was robbed. Let's run it back. Let's see it again. It wasn't no controversy besides the decision. The fight was a good fight. It was a really good fight, and I would love to watch it again.
I listened to Locker Room Talk today on my way home from work, and they did a pre-fight take on the UFC card, and they were talking about oh fuck, what was I about to say? I do this all the time. I lose my train of thought trying to set up what I'm going to talk about, and then I forget what I'm actually going to fucking talk about. But I was listening to Locker Room Talk, and they were talking about the UFC, and they said Wallow in particular was talking about how he didn't like the idea of running it right back.
Yeah,
He didn't think because Reyes is a challenger, then he shouldn't be entitled to a rematch. The only way that he sees that it should have been ran back instantly is if Jones would have been the one to lose, because he's the long reigning champion and he's earned a rematch clause. Other than that, you know, Reyes lost. Move it along. Get the next guy in because it's not like wrestling or something like that where you can have a feud last months at a time and then you just move on to the next one. These guys' careers are so short and they don't fight every month or every week or whatever. So you need to move on to the next guy in line. Unfortunately, with Jones, there's not too many guys left in line.
Yeah, but he'll take that fight again. Like I said, I think they need to have one more in between. But there's a lot of, if you look at, go online and start looking at some of the fighters' reactions, almost every one of them had Reyes winning.
Yeah.
That's going to put a bad taste in Jones's mouth.
Dana had Reyes winning.
Yeah, that's going to have Jones being like, "What? They don't think I won," and he's going to want to prove something. That's just how Jones is. Look at him in DC.
Mm-hmm.
How many times he going to have to beat DC? And people get in his head. DC gets in his head, and he wants to fight him again.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, man, I'm about off the John Jones fan bandwagon train, whatever you want to call it. I'm about over him. I know that's probably going to break Zach's heart too because he's a Jones fan too, but I'm about sick of it. He's not the John Jones that I liked. He's not the John Jones that I thought was the best fighter out there. He's not finishing fights anymore. 7 of his last 8 fights now have gone to a decision. The only recent fight that he's finished was Gustafson, and that was back in 2018, in December of 2018. Before that, you have to go all the way back to 2013 for the last time he finished a fight. That's 7 years since he's had, big finishes like that.
Yeah, it's time for he's almost on his way out. I think he's still got a few more wins up his sleeves. He's definitely not the same fighter as when he came up. He's not that electric guy that is knocking people out with spinning back fists and knees and all that craziness. But
and
neither
it's just a
was.
shame. It's
Look
just
at
a shame
Silva.
that we missed so much of his career due to his stupidity.
Oh, that's true. But look at Silva. Remember how slick Anderson Silva used to be,
Yeah, that's true.
and how dominant. And then toward the end, he just stuck around and he was getting beat by everybody.
Yeah, but even then, like when he first came back, he still won a fight by kicking a dude with a front kick in the chin.
Yeah,
He won the championship with that move, if I'm not mistaken. So the Spider was still badass late into his career, finishing fights with flashy shit.
any fighter can do that. Though. I mean, any fighter that's fought for a long time can catch somebody. Just
Yeah,
like
well,
you
John
see it.
Jones isn't.
Yeah, just like look at Roy. Roy only lost one fight going into this last fight, and it was a guy that was 0-10. The guy hadn't beat anybody, and Roy was like 8-0. But Roy got caught. The guy landed one good punch. Roy dominated the whole fight. The kid landed one good punch, caught Roy, and slapped him.
Wow.
Yeah, and he's wanted that fight back forever, but the guy wasn't nowhere good enough to fight him because Roy already surpassed him. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it wouldn't have been a fair fight, and I'm sure, I'm sure as much as Roy wanted to avenge that loss, you don't want to just go and skunk somebody.
Yeah, but that kid, he's only got one win on his record to this day, and
And
that was
it's
against
Roy.
Roy. Yeah.
Oh man, that's fun though. Roy should like become that dude's friend.
He probably is. I don't know.
I hope that dude and Roy are tight
He
because
remember. He
that's kind of a
remembers
cool
that.
thing.
Roy remembers the fight. He
Oh,
knows
I
the
bet.
guy.
I bet he does. Uh, but yeah, man, the thing that really comes from this controversy is that I think we need MMA specific judges. They've ran with boxing judges for so long, and it's because the state athletic commissions appoint the boxing judges to do it or whatever. UFC's hands are tied in that regard, but they need MMA specific judges. We talked about technology opening up new jobs in baseball and sports in general. This opens up a new job for these retired MMA fighters that know the sport inside and out, but can't do it anymore in the octagon. They can come sit by the octagon and evaluate it and score it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should. Anybody, just the same. And I keep going back to boxing. But that's what I know, and I apologize, guys. Same way in boxing. Anybody can take a test and be a boxing judge. They don't never have to fight or anything like that. And same way in MMA, you pass the test, you become an official. And I agree that you should have to have had fought in your past. You should have to have experience and know what's going on. Like sometimes a guy might be looking like he's getting overtaken, but really he's spending all his time trying to set up a specific move or whatever. So he's doing something. It just doesn't look like it from a guy that's never done it.
Sure.
Um, they got an octagon. Why not throw a camera in each corner of the octagon and then have pros at home, like pros that can't make it, like maybe have the judges vote and then have 5 or 6 pros watching it. They each get one single vote. They can come up to an agreement on their decision. So that kind of kills the tiebreaker, if that makes sense. You'd have
I
every
like that.
angle. It's an octagon, so you'd have every angle if you put a camera on each corner.
I like that. I hope our listeners like that too. Let us know what you think. If you like that idea, uh, start talking about it. Get it out there.
Hmm.
If you like the ideas that we throw out there, please share them. Make them come to reality, because if we think it's a good idea and you think it's a good idea, other people will also think that it's a good idea. So we live in an age, again, with technology, that we can spread our ideas and influence the sports that we love, even though we're not actively playing them.
Hmm.
And I made a plea to the listener, so I guess it's a perfect time to go ahead and kick into the Sportszilla post of the week, which I think was a pretty good one. It came from one of the admins over at Sportszilla, Ryan Gaskins, and it says, "What does everybody think of the idea that has been said by multiple sources of trading Dak and signing Brady?" Ooh, that's a loaded one. Jason Dudley was one of the favorite comments that I saw, and it said, "If Dak wanted to be a Cowboy, he would have signed already." I agree. He has accomplished nothing in his 3 years and is demanding to be the highest paid quarterback. Nah, brah. He just wants to be a free agent.
Hmm. That's laughable. Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what the Red Sox were facing with Mookie Betts. So I can relate to that sentiment that Jason had said. I kind of feel the same way about Mookie, and I'm sure Dallas fans feel the same way about Dak.
Let Dak go. I don't know if Brady's the answer, but Dallas has a somewhat decent team. Brady might be able to come in and get him a win or two. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think he's the long term answer, but Dak sure as heck ain't. And if you sign Dak up for 7, 8 years, you're stuck, just like you were with everybody, everything Jerry Jones does.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I don't think that Tom Brady's the answer to all of these teams that have been rumored to be interested in him. The man's going to be 43 years old next season.
Hmm.
Like, just wrap your mind around that. You're going to be paying a 43-year-old man $60 million over 2 years to come to your team. Eh. And by the way, all the other teams around you are getting young stud quarterbacks from college that are winning MVPs, winning Super Bowls. Whatever, man.
Hmm.
I don't get it, but we'll see what happens. The NFL is a whole nother mystery in and of itself, and we've got the draft coming up, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about it as it nears, and as it happens, we'll probably do a special little coverage with it.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, I know you are, football head.
Hmm.
You going to be watching the Braves a little bit in spring training, Justin?
Yeah, I am watching the Braves. Like I said, XFL kind of got me off my schedule.
That's only 2 days a week, brother. There's still 5 other days for baseball.
I know, but damn, it was so much fun. I was so happy at the end of it. Like I didn't have my expectations were low, dude. Like I didn't want to get my hopes up, because I've seen this XFL before.
Right.
And after the end of the week, my expectations are now super high. I hope it don't let me down in week 2.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they said something about they had the first game opened with 3.3 million viewers and it finished with 4 million viewers, which meant that people were interested in what they saw and they told their friends about it, and their friends started tuning in.
Mm-hmm.
The social media response was positive. Everything around it was positive. So people started tuning in, and if that continues, it'll be 4.5, 5 million, 5.2, 5.3. All the stadiums had 17, 18,000 people in them, so that's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good number to draw in your first game ever.
Yeah, he had to be happy with all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Justin, you're going to be back next week, right?
Yeah, I'd be here.
All right, good. Zach should be back next week as well. We're going to be talking about the National League East. We're going to start with the Champions Division and work our way around Major League Baseball during spring training and talk about that division in detail and kind of focus on it and see who we think is really going to stack up and be the team to beat out of each division. So make sure you do your homework. Guys at home, make sure you do your homework so you can fact check us along in the comments. We appreciate that shit. And till next week, we are out.
That was a good one.